Hello and welcome to Steve's Backyard Bonsai. Today I want to continue with the pruning just prior to putting some things away for the winter. I just have a few things left, not big, won't take very long at all, but we'll talk through it. But before that, I want to show you something. This is my Thanksgiving cactus. It is loaded with blooms, and since we're having Thanksgiving on Saturday this year, I think this might be in full bloom by then. That's just 3 days from now. So this is the one that I've named after my grandniece because it is quite reliable and quite amazing. This blooms every year at Thanksgiving, and there are blooms on, and some double blooms on almost every petal, or whatever you call these, cactus fronds. There are just a few that don't have them. This is in desperate need of a structural pruning. There's some things I want to do. I want to make this a taller cactus. I want to highlight these woody stems, these woody trunks, and maybe continue that up this tree as it gets older. But it's doing great, and it's going to be a great centerpiece to our table. All right, first up is a tray of wisteria seedlings that were planted in 2023, but in here possibly is a raft, because in 2022 I buried 2 wisteria logs that had some growth on them, and they stayed alive. Now, I don't know if they're still alive or if any of these are stemming up from that. I won't know that until I take everything out of here. But today, I'm just going to defoliate this like this. Maybe easier than that. And then we'll come back and look at the stems. What I want to get here are little wisteria trees that are starting to branch out low. All right, and then I'll divide this up at some opportune time. But we'll do this defoliation in fast mode. Well, with the exception of one tree, there is no branching at all. And this is the one tree that does have branching right here. The only thing is, I don't know if this is viable. I think I'd have an opportunity to get some branching if I cut the top off of this here. And once again, I don't know if this is a seedling that I planted. I planted some seeds here from a neighborhood tree. And the raft part of it, if it took, was from a tree that comes up in my backyard. I don't actually have it. It's on the property next door, but the runners come through the ground. And I just took a chunk of a runner and put it in here. So I'm going to go around just like I did there, and we'll come back and look at it. It's not intended to be a forest, just as a nursery for growing some wisteria, and maybe I'll get 1 or 2 that'll look nice someday. All right, so this was my first batch of wisteria. I've got a bunch in here. I'm going to take them one at a time and hopefully show you something on them that might work for seedlings of yours. You'll get to see me uncover the results of this in the spring, and who knows, maybe I'll get a nice bonsai out of this. I have seen beautiful, absolutely beautiful wisteria bonsai. And why not give it a try? I'm not going to go out and buy one, but if they grow in my backyard, I'm certainly going to try to cultivate one. So let me get the next wisteria, and we'll get to work on that. All right, I'll take you on a tour of the trunk, but this was a root cutting that came growing out of the ground in my yard. It's been in this pot, which is one of those pots that's bellied on the outside, which is going to make it a real hard thing to get out of this pot. But what I'm trying to do is have a nice wisteria, and I do not have one. So this one has some branching, but pretty far up on the trunk. All of this is coming off. What happens at the end is these little whips dry up and die. There's no buds on them at all. It's just a matter of where I want to cut this. So let's zoom up on it and just take a look. All right, I just realized that I didn't turn the camera on to show you me cutting this. So, as I mentioned, I have some branching here and here, and I'm hoping to get branching on this side over here, which would make a nice, I don't know, a nice top to this tree. So I cut it here, which was between this internode and the next one, which were pretty far apart. I got a bud here, and a bud here. So I'm hoping for 3 areas, or at least one area where branching occurs. All right, next tree is very much like this one. This wisteria was planted at the same time as the last one. It also has quite an ugly root base, but it does flare out at the bottom. So maybe with some root work, I can fix that. Here's where I trimmed off another large branch. So this was going in 2 directions, and I bent this one down. It has decided to send up a new leader, and I think I understand what I'm going to do with this tree. I'm going to leave this growing up. I'm going to cut this down, but I'm going to leave this and leave this. So I'm going to try and get branching on these sub branches. Do I really want to do that? Yeah, I want to let this grow to pull sap and provide vigor to these other branches. I've got really close internodes here, so this is a good opportunity to just cut this here and see what develops in springtime. Maybe someday I'll have a decent wisteria. I certainly have enough stock to go on. So this again was just one of the ones that just grows wild in my yard. Beautiful flowers. If I ever get a wisteria to flower as a bonsai, well, that would be wonderful. Just notice there's one thing I want to clean up here, and that is this old pruning stub. Wisteria wood rots very quickly. I'll get some slime on it. That should seal it up nicely for winter. This is another wisteria planted from seed that had started to branch and probably will continue to do so on my command. And as you can see, I cut it here before. There was branching here and I cut it here. Let me clean that up a bit. And it's starting to get other branching. But mostly it's growing up straight, which is okay. It's not what I want, but it's okay. This one I'm just going to cut down in height right to here and hope for something to branch out up here. These leaves that I've been pulling off are just that. They're only leaves. It's a compound frond, if you will. But this whole thing would have dropped off anyway. And as you saw, with just a little help, most of them did just drop off. All right, the last wisteria. These were also planted from seed, but from seed I collected from a wisteria that was growing in a nursery. I often do that. If there are seeds on the ground, there are seeds in Steve's pocket. These don't look so great. I mean, there are buds. And this one has some low branching, but these trees don't look really healthy. I am going to take the tops off of these. And this one I'm going to leave. Looks a little sickly. But just another wisteria that I'm experimenting with. I hope you'll stay tuned, become a fan, because you'll see these in the spring. And if you want to do something like this, you can watch along with me and let me make the mistakes. All right, the next one is a willow from cutting. All right, here's that little willow. Once again, I didn't hit the record button, but I cut off 2 pruning stubs here, another pruning stub there. I pruned the top off of this to some close internodes here, and I did the same on this one. So I'm just getting some rubber cement on these wounds, just so they have a better chance of staying healthy. All right, so that's my weeping willow. I have some other videos that I recorded a couple days ago that I'll be playing in this video too. I don't know if this will be the last one or those will be the last one. It depends. If this is the last one, goodbye and thank you for keeping me company in my backyard. And if it's not the last one, enjoy the next video. So this is one of my problem children. This is my hazel. And I've been waiting for the leaves to fall off, and they've kind of just done that. I'm pulling some of the substrate closer to the base of the tree to try and cover some of these roots a little bit. I do this periodically. I don't know what's alive, what's dead. I know it's developing a shallow root base. I think the root system itself looks pretty good. What doesn't look so good is the tree. I'm spinning it around for you. The front was somewhere here. I had done some early wiring on this tree, which I don't really like, but I'm getting a branch down lower. So I might do away with this older branch and try and manipulate this one to grow out in this direction without giving it wire marks. That's one of the things I've been thinking about. This crosses the whole structure, and it also has some old wire marks on it. The base of this tree always reminded me of a, I don't know, this looks like Godzilla's head. This looks like a viewport from an old diving mask. 2 legs here. I don't know. This is quite an ugly tree and not one of my favorites. Although the foliage on it is beautiful. You know, when it's first coming out, and even now, the fall colors on it, what's left on it. I don't know if you can really see that, but it's more red in real life than what I'm seeing on the screen here. So these leaves are coming off. I'll help it along. All right, I'm just going to take the rest of these leaves off and we'll come back and talk about it. Well, let me tell you what I've been thinking. And I don't really like this, but I think this tree needs to get chopped off right here and continue in this direction. And on this side, that makes this be the most desirable branch. This one would come off. And I would leave this here until springtime. Maybe I'll take this branch off. And I would air layer this top off. So should I do that? I have buds here. I have buds here. I could take this end off. I'll start by doing that. Clean up this intersection here. Okay, that branch back there then becomes something we don't want. This is something we don't want. and this. So try to imagine, this coming off. I had originally said this, but it looks a little flat. But what I was talking about is a little flat also. Let me deal with this. I think this comes off. And I'm going to take one of these shoots off. That one. Cut the old pruning stub. Pretty up this intersection a bit. Pretty up this intersection a bit. Cover those wounds. Yeah, I think I'm going to air layer this. And if I were doing that, I wouldn't need this branch. I'm going to take the tip off of this one and this one. I think I'm going to take the heavy part of this branch off. You know, now I'm looking at this thing thinking, maybe I don't want to air layer that. It's a good thing I'm deferring that to next spring because I might not do that. I think this whole top comes off. You know, I just love a winter profile. I'm going to cut this here. Cut it there last time. I have a terminal bud here and pruning stub here. What do I want to do with that terminal bud? I do have two buds down lower. And I think I'm going to cut this down here and this here. I don't know what that is. You know what? I like this. I'm going to cut this off. This is a prime example of letting the tree dictate to you. Now, this is the tree leaning away from you. This is the tree leaning toward you. This is what I said last year when I did this. Let's see what the tree gives us. I've left plenty of buds on the tree and made some serious decisions about what's left on here. I'm going to try and clean that up a little bit. Other bulges I see I'm going to try and clean up as well. And I'll get some rubber cement on those. All right, next victim. I picked up a blueberry tree a while back on a recommendation from a YouTuber. It was Candace from Bonsai Science. I've been waiting for the tree to gain vigor. I got two of them. One of them has perished. This one, you know, grew very long and straight. But I've got to try and do something with this tree. I'm not sure what, but I think it's going to be drastic also. This is another one of my problem children. You know, I never feel that the growth that I'm achieving with it is very beneficial. I'm still learning this tree. I don't think a branch like this does me any good, and I'm not sure this one is alive, but I'm going to take a chance because I don't like the direction that branch is growing. And I know there's vigor in here, so something will grow. I'm going to take this long branch off. Blueberry's got little thorns, so watch out. 3 branches coming from one spot. Makes me wonder if I want this at all. Some nice movement here, got some character, but there again, I'm not sure what's alive. Oh, this looks dead at the end here. I'm going to cut this bottom piece off, cut this back to what looks like a downward facing bud, and the same thing there. If I don't go in fast motion, I feel like these videos get too long and boring. And it's getting dark. I'm hoping you can see this. It does have some nice movement. I don't like what's happening there, so I'm going to cut this to there. Take this stub off and shorten that to there. Let's see if anything happens. This probably should come off. I don't know where the front is, but this is... I'm going to cut it short. See what happens. All right, up here. Got a bud there. Take that short. This branches out. This branches in this direction here. Take this off. Take this off. And can I go back further with this? I can. I can go to here. Branch above it. Also, let me look at this one. I don't think I want that. This is really straight. I definitely don't think I want that. And I don't think I want this. All right, you've seen me make some decisions. I'm going to go in fast motion just because I think I'm losing daylight here. We'll see what happens. Here it is, all pruned up. Let's see what happens in springtime. It's in Canuma, which is an acid-loving. It's an acid-loving tree, and I have my azaleas in Canuma, so I thought it would be a good substrate for this tree. Let's see. Didn't do great this summer, but then again, I hadn't styled it. And I didn't really fertilize it much. So I will rectify that next year. And this is going back out on the bench. And that's going to be it for today because I'm running out of daylight. So thank you for keeping me company in my backyard. One of my favorite things is the leaf litter in Central Park at this time of year. Some are so tiny, and all you gotta do is touch the trees and these leaves fall off. So we'll be doing this is gonna spend the winter in the greenhouse. So at some point I'll be cleaning this all up and doing some structural pruning on these trees. This one is very meager. I'm not sure what's going to happen with this tree. I didn't give it a lot of space to grow, and maybe it's just not right for this planting, but we'll try and keep it alive as long as possible. This is a cutting from these Chinese elm. I was thinking of replacing it with one of these little Seiju elm cuttings, which are doing great. Might not fit in. He looks pretty cool. Oh, and one other thing, I've reached out to people to try and find out what I should be looking for to know whether or not my Norfolk Island pines are alive. And I think this is what I'm looking for. But it's the only one showing any signs of life, so we'll see what happens.